Good evening, and welcome to the work session for Greenwood LaFleur Consolidated School District. Today is August 26, 2020. May we bow our heads for a moment of silent prayer. Amen.
Amen.
Dr. Brown.
Okay, good evening. On our work session agenda, we'll start with our data reports. Student meal pickup, delivery, and registered students who have not picked up Chromebooks. Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. What you have before you is the first item you have is the student meal delivery summary, and you can see what it was by school, the totals, and it goes from each date from August the 11th up until the 25th. And you had a grand total of 5,071 meals that were served between August the 11th and August the 25th.
Question, Dr. Brown. So what happens to the food that may have been prepared for students to pick up, but they didn't? Do you store it to use another day or discard it?
We have to discard it if it's not picked up. Any food that is prepared that day, we do have to discard it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the next item you have is a series of listed students from each school that have not been issued Chromebooks. And the total of that is 383 students that are not issued Chromebooks. And I do say not issued because if you look at some of the students on some of the lists, it's by preference that they did not want to receive a Chromebook. It's not the $15 that are issued. Now, there is a lot of them that are an issue of the $15, but you do have some that just may have their own devices and chose not to take additional devices.
By September 1st, the board meeting, is there any kind of way that you can give us the number of those just that does not have the insurance fee? And Dr. Brown, if we can do that letter again for the area churches so that we can get some help.
And what I do, I go in and just based off the ones that I know, I will deduct them from that 383 total.
Thank you.
So clarity, Dr. Brown. So Mr. Johnson, you're going to remove the students who chose or choose to not get a Chromebook versus the ones that just have not paid the, okay, thank you.
I have a question. So the remainder of the $15 fees, is that not a category that can be taken care of by CARES funding since it is a response to COVID?
Now, it was not put in the original application. That would have been something that would have had to be in the initial application and approved. Because student fees, I'm not sure if that would have been allowable, but we have submitted the application. I know those fees were not included.
Next, you have updates on the screener process and updates on the Early Learning Collaborative with Mississippi Health Alliance. Ms. Coleman.
Our team of nurses, speech therapists, and instructional staff members began screening pre-K students as required by MDE and the Early Learning Collaborative on Monday. All students enrolled at LaFleur County Elementary and Claudine Brown Elementary have been screened with the exception of one. We have one makeup from those two schools. And we began screening at Threadgill Primary to date, and 18 of the 70 were screened. And we will continue the rest of the week screening those students. In addition to the hearing and vision screening, instructional staff members were on hand to administer the Brigance assessment or screener. It is a requirement for the collaborative. Our students with disabilities are screened as needed And after the completion of pre-K and screening, students in grades K and gifted students will begin their screening, and we're doing so one student at a time. With regards to the Early Learning Collaborative with Delta Health Alliance, we have a meeting scheduled this Friday here at the Services Building at 1:30 p.m. At this time, we're unsure of Gilliam's start date, what type of schedule they will administer, whether or not they've retained all employees from the ELC, who the center administrator will be, nor do we know the number of students they have registered that will be a part of our program. So hopefully we will get answers to those questions on Friday.
So will it still be named Gilliam?
To my knowledge, yes, they're just falling under a different organization.
Next we have is in the back of your packets, updates on Chromebook, the Chromebook distribution process, updates on virtual learning, an update on the parent meetings, senior schedules and dual enrollment, student attendance, and processes for checking attendance, and the roles of chiefs and documentation. Dr. Pulley.
Good afternoon. Chromebooks have been distributed to students. As we just mentioned, parents are still paying the $15 insurance fee in some of those locations and picking up Chromebooks. We do have a report, I think in the last meeting we mentioned, as of this past Friday, we have 63 Chromebooks which have been shipped out for repair. And so in the meantime, for those students so that they won't be without the technology that they need, we're using the Chromebooks which we have in the school buildings to ensure that students have access to the appropriate technology to participate in the learning management system, to participate in live class discussion. We are working currently, we've had conversations, we are working currently to submit all required documentation for the Equity and Distance Learning Act, so that we'll have additional funds to purchase technologies such as Chromebooks, hotspots, and laptops for teachers. So that is coming. The deadline for us to submit that is September 1st, and then we'll hear back from MDE regarding that. Update on virtual learning. Virtual learning is going pretty well. We know that our students are accessing Canvas and completing assignments and doing what they need to do to be successful in class. We recognize that it is it's new for everybody. On yesterday, we did have some technical difficulties with one of our platforms that we're using to display the virtual classes. But as soon as we found out about yesterday morning, I think at maybe 7:45, the technology team got on it, and within the hour, we have located the problem and sent the help ticket in to the company, and we had it resolved in a very short time. So we're working out the kinks to our problem. We have shared with everybody that with technology, you will have some days that the technology may not work as it should, but as long as we have contingency plans in place in order to continue academics for our students, then we're just gonna switch to that and keep it rolling if the technology doesn't flow on that particular day. We are continuing to train our staff on how to implement effective virtual learning practices. On last week, the curriculum team introduced the MDE Instructional Planning Guides to all teachers to assist in addressing student learning gaps from the 2019-2020 school year. A part of the MDE considerations, which we explained back in, I think it was June, MDE suggested that we review their planning guides so that any skills that students may have missed while being out since March, they would work with us through their planning guides so that teachers can merge pacing guides with what they have, so that we will make sure that any thing that students may have missed the fourth 9 weeks of last school year, that they will be caught up. We will not move on, so to say, We will catch them up where they need to be, and then we will continue with pacing guides.
Dr. Fuller, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
yes, ma'am.
Just in case the effects of Hurricane Laura come, will we have like work packets or anything available if it reaches the Delta?
We have,
And Ms. Milton, excuse me, Dr. Fuller,
Yes,
I've been meeting with principals. I have 4 more tomorrow, but I haven't heard from the principals that, and that very thing, I know Ms. Katasha Brown stated that they're already, she has her teacher already making packets in the event that the hurricane comes this way or the weather. Ms. Tara Harris has been making packets. And so the principals that I've spoken to, they're working to make sure it's done, but I'm glad you said it because I was forgot to tell you that, Dr. Fuller, but see about the chief coming up with additional packets.
on today, Ms. Hart did send instructional coaches the email, and so did Ms. Hurt communicate with elementary instructional coaches about creating packets in the event that the weather doesn't allow us to have the virtual classes. So that is taking place, so that at least for a 1 week to 2 week packet, just in case. We don't anticipate it to be that long without the technology, but we are preparing just in case. Also, on tomorrow, teachers will participate in training on how to continue to effectively implement our lesson line, which is we're wanting to show them how to implement EDI in the virtual classroom. Update on parent meetings. As of today, we have held 20 parent meetings in the month of August to provide parents with the information they need to be able to navigate Canvas. The dates are listed below. Attached, you will see, well, it's on the back, you will see a copy of the virtual learning schedule. We listen very attentively, very purposely, and we let our parents know that we are here to assist them. We recognize that it's a new system, and all stakeholders, all teachers, all students, all staff, all parents, all community members, we're trying to grasp virtual learning, and we recognize that. So we have, for the month of August, this week, I think on Monday, we had 90 parents in the 10 o'clock meeting. On yesterday, Ms. Coleman and I worked with parents and just listening to them. It was just a question and answer session, just listening to them and writing down their questions, writing down their concerns. And then after the meetings are over, we are working with principals, working with staff to ensure that those things that we need to correct in order to make sure that we have a smoother process, that we're doing that. And so they've been very receptive to what we're saying, and I will say they've been very positive. We continue to thank them for their support of our school district as we have those. But we do want to mention that we have had those meetings this month, and we do have a meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. and at 4 p.m. Senior schedules and dual enrollment. Board members, you will see some sample schedules from all 3 high schools. All schedules are the same. And when I say the same, I'm meaning the number of courses. And this is done to ensure that students receive the requisite number of instructional minutes per day, 240 minutes, as required by the Mississippi Department of Education. And so we understand concerns, definitely, and we were able to explain those, talk with parents about the concerns that they had. And we even had one parent yesterday to thank us for further explaining to them why the schedules were as they were. Principals have met with seniors of each school, and they've had pretty productive meetings. And we will continue, as we stated on yesterday, we will continue to explain to our students why our schedules are the way they are, so that we can move forward and continue learning as we have always done in the Glcsd.
Dr. Fuller, can I
Yes,
ask
yes,
you a
ma'am.
question? So does that 240 minutes include dual enrollment, or that's in addition to?
That 240 minutes can include dual enrollment, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It can, And in those situations, we've communicated with principals for those students who are enrolled in dual enrollment. If they do have a tutorial class, that dual enrollment class can be in that spot. As long as we're having at least 240 minutes, we have absolutely no problem with that. But we have, we just have to comply with the guidelines that's set.
So are principals making those adjustments, or it's just per case if a parent requests it? Is that across the board with the
Yes, it is across the board. I had those conversations with them, and we've been emailing as it relates to that. After speaking with parents on Monday, after speaking with them on yesterday, we've communicated that. So due to the pandemic, normally the deadlines for entrance to the dual enrollment program would have already been over, but they extended some time. Currently, as I had on here, we have about 101 students across the district enrolled in dual enrollment courses, but that's including 11th and 12th grade students. So I would definitely talk with all principals to make sure that we ask them to review those student schedules so that if there's that particular room there, we understand that. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Pulley?
Yes, sir.
So in your samples, we only have one sample from the floor?
Yes, and that's the first sample that I received about last week. And when I reached out to him today, he's going to send it. They were in meetings today, and I just hadn't had a chance to go back and check. But as soon as I get those, I will print them. But he has about 6 more that he's sending to me.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Student attendance and process for checking attendance. In the last board meeting, we had to, before, I think the deadline was before September 1, we had to approve the reporting student attendance in the virtual classroom. And so we did that. And so the process, what our teachers are doing, our teachers have a form that they submit to the office each day via email. And so basically, in order to take attendance, they are looking on their virtual class roster to see who's not present. They indicate who those students are who are not present, and then they get that to the attendance clerk or the secretaries in the buildings, and then they enter it into SAM, our student management system. And so the attendance is checked daily that way. And as long as it's input into SAM before the end of the school day, then we're pretty good. I did ask the principals just the other day, were we having any issues with student attendance, and they said that everything is fine with that. Also, we did address student attendance with parents. In the event that students are not able to log in, many times our office staff are reaching out to parents and say, hey, he or she is not joined in. If they're having technical difficulties, we've also shared with them that if you reach out and just email your teachers to say, hey, I can't log on, or just let someone know I can't log on, we do not penalize the students due to that reason. And so, and even for our students who may have difficulties where they can't get on the internet at all, as long as they have their packet and we verify that they're working on their packet, they're submitting their packet, then a part of, MDE calls it the asynchronous instruction, which is the packets, then that means that as long as we can verify that they're completing the packet, then they will be marked present on that day.
So Dr. Pulley, does every teacher and every student have hotspot?
Every student all of them who have paid the fee, they do have, yes. Now, we do have 160 hotspots that have been going out this week to schools. We received a number that of additional hotspots that schools needed, and so we've been shipping those out. I know we went to East today. I think Davis is tomorrow, because they have to be programmed before they go out so that we know that they're working properly. So we do have situations such as that where we're sending them out. Also, as it relates to teachers, we do recognize that some teachers may live in areas that may not be conducive for the virtual live sessions. And so we do have some teachers who have been coming in, not all of them, but some of them who just based on where they live cannot get that signal. And they have been coming in to provide that, instruction. And so we know that that's a situation that we will continue to work through. Also, with Mr. Johnson and Ms. House and Dr. Brown and I, we discussed today about what we can do until our additional funds come in to make sure that we continue to get more hotspots, so that for those who may not or may have difficulty with the one that they have, that they will have access to the technology. So as it stands right now, the ones who have paid, they do have, and principals will reach out to me to let me know, hey, my teacher, I need one hotspot, or they're having difficulty, and we try to work with them like that.
Question, Dr. Brown, if I may. First, let me say thank you directly to Dr. Brown and Dr. Pulley. I did bring share some concerns regarding some parents in District 4, and immediately, one was a Chromebook. You all jumped on it. The parent was extremely grateful. The second one was more personal, and it's in regards to communication. And it's been my experience that effectively communicating with the teachers can be difficult, and even contacting the principal to no resolve. And as I indicated to Dr. Brown, I did make contact with Dr. Brown regarding my situation, but there are other parents who may not be aware that if I have problems, I can contact Dr. Brown, I can contact Dr. Pulley. So what are we doing to make sure or hold teachers or principals for that matter accountable to simply responding and being effective communicators to both parents and students when issues arise?
So let me, if I may, the principals I know are communicating to teachers to return emails or phone calls from parents. And if the parents don't communicate it to the principals won't know it. Just like when you called me and I spoke with that particular principal who had communicated to his teachers again. But we continue to encourage the parents. We have placed everything out there, our phone numbers, our email addresses, for them to call us if they're having those type of issues or concerns. And just speaking on behalf of the teachers, because they are working through this virtual platform and things are new for them, I can go out on a limb and say I don't think any teacher is purposefully not returning phone calls. They get bogged down from the day-to-day in the day-to-day. But what we are asking parents, if they call us, we're going to make sure to help the schools and try to get, even if it's a Chromebook situation or a hotspot situation, we'll do our part on our end to make sure that they get it. We have communicated to teachers also in our meetings. But again, we're just asking parents, if they're having those concerns, to call up here, and then we can reach out to the principals to make sure that it is communicated. I know, and I'm not just one principal, I use Claudine Brown's principal. The parents actually have her district cell phone number, so they're able to call her directly. And Ms. Williams at Threadgill, she's emailing parents on a daily basis. And so if they can't get in contact with the teacher, use any of our emails. Dr. Pulley and I met with a young lady, Amanda Ells, at high school senior this morning. We Zoomed or Googled or GoTo with her regarding a concern that was out of our control and out of her control, but we're working with her to try to assist with the concern that she has. And so, even if I get emails from, I get emails from students, I get emails from parents, we try to get on it right then. So I would just encourage all parents or community members, if you have a concern, whether it's at the school level or the district level, we're here, we check our emails, we answer phones all day, and we try to make sure that if we don't have the answer, we find a solution at least before that day is out. And most of the time we tell parents, if we're unable to respond right then, if you give me a day, let me work on it, but we're definitely gonna give them an answer. And so, and we have had parents who do call. Most of the time, Ms. Flowers is on the phone. She can respond to some of the requests. And if it's email, I respond, Dr. Pulley, Ms. Coleman, Mr. Johnson will respond. And so I'm just, they'll reach out to Ms. Dean also. Ms. Dean responds. And so our email addresses are, we have people who are using, we're just encouraging everybody, if you have something, just email us, and then we will reach out to the principal to contact that specific teacher. And so I think at this point, everybody is doing everything that they can. It's not just a school level thing for parents who are unsure whether they can contact the district. We're working to take some of the pressure off of the schools also, especially off of our teachers.
And Dr. Brown, I'll add, I think Dr. Pulley did a marvelous job with the parent meeting this
Yes.
week in answering all the questions that the parents had, both vocally as well as the ones that was documented in the chat. So just kudos and thank you for that, Dr. Pulley.
Thank you.
So Dr. Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
the help desk, what do those calls come into? Is that out here?
So help desk is here, is our technology team. We're gonna add Ms. Beckworth's number. The technology team basically works one-on-one with the individuals who call. So we also encourage them to call those numbers, and they're actually on that phone with one person. They will not hang up until that person's, I almost said business is fixed. That person's concern is addressed. So yes, and we're gonna add more numbers to it. I know Ms. Beckworth, she has a lot of people calling her. When I spoke with the principals, I was asking about the number of calls, and they're saying that the numbers are dwindling down, and that's what we wanted to do, but we want the parents to call. We want the students to call if there's an issue. I also spoke with the principals today. I'm gonna work with Ms. Dean so that the principals can do their robocalls at their individual schools. We were just talking about the ways that we can continue to get that communication out to the students, the staff, and the community.
And then Dr. Fuller, I have one other question.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking at these numbers that you provided us in reference to the class periods, some of those numbers were rather high. Do we have anyone else that maybe could help alleviate and decrease those numbers?
You talking about the enrollment in the classes?
Mm-hmm. Because they are face-to-face, right? I mean, not really, they are Zooming.
Right. Well, we don't have additional teachers to add. One thing that we did pay attention, and we did not do it more so at the lower levels, but at the high school levels, we did, for example, I know we do have one particular class where the teacher at LaFleur County High School is providing that particular instruction for the other two. Because we did not, of course, have a teacher, but because we're virtual, she could provide that instruction. And so we have not had any major issues from those classes where the numbers are larger. I know the ones that you're talking about, but I will communicate with all three principals to see if that's been an issue. And we can kind of look at what we can do maybe to, and I know the best thing would be to have a teacher, and then we could split the kids out that way. But we'll definitely look at it. I know exactly the class she's talking about. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Pulley, in regards to the hard packets or the physical copies, is that something that is required that the students complete as it was this past spring, or just in addition to the virtual learning as a support tool?
Oh, okay. So on two issues. So one issue is if we have inclement weather, then those packets are there to provide the instruction for the time that students have missed. But it's also there for additional, just as a supplemental materials there. On the other end, for students who don't have access to technology at all, then of course those particular packages will be a part of the actual grades for students and instruction. I hope I answered.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you.
So,
Yeah, I
Dr.
can-
Pulley, just in case it's inclement weather for Hurricane Laura, what do the parents come to the schools to pick up packets?
So,
Go ahead.
and I'm just, because I talked to the principals today, so with the delivering of the lunch in the rural areas, those packets go out then. And then the ones that come to pick up the lunches, they pick up their packs then. So that way, we know that the rural area children may not have, someone who can maybe take off work to come and pick up their packs. So since the buses are going there, we're gonna send those out. But the rest of them, the rest of the packets will remain at the school so that parents can pick those up also. Now, as far as the emailing anything, have you all thought about that, Dr. Pulley?
Well, another thing that we
And
talked
I
about.
asked that because I know Ms. Harris, Tara Harris, does have email addresses for some parents, and for those who would rather have theirs emailed, she was going to email those out.
And in the case of the inclement weather, we would also post those packets on our district webpage. And I know if internet goes out, then that's another, but that would just be another avenue, in case it's not out, but they can still access it, So we're going to do everything we can. We'll work with Ms. Coleman, and I definitely will work to try to figure out what's best in order to get everybody what they need.
So Dr. Brown, is it possible to just have the packets posted to the website regardless, just like you all did
Yes.
in spring?
Sure.
Because for some parents, it may be easier for some to just go on and print it versus having to physically go to a school. All right, thank you.
So, Dr. Brown, you did say the lunches are still going out?
To rural areas.
Just to rural areas? Okay,
Yeah. Everybody else is coming to pick up their lunch.
okay.
Okay. And then roles of chiefs and documentation. Our chiefs are working with our schools. They have access to Canvas. And so what they've been doing is they'll click on the links. So for example, if I'm the chief for Bankston Elementary, then I'll log into Canvas just as if I'm, an administrator there. I'll observe classroom instruction, assist teachers from 1 to 3:30 in planning, in providing actionable feedback that we would normally do if we were in the regular classroom setting. For the month of August, our chiefs have been working to provide that professional development. I can tell you that they have been, all of them have been working for last week's meeting and for tomorrow's meeting. Tomorrow's meeting will be conducted by some of our chiefs, by some of our teachers, to ensure that all of our instructional staff understand the EDI strategies, which we're wanting them to utilize in the virtual learning setting. And so for the month of August, because we know everybody was focused on how do I even just do virtual learning, and then as we move to the month of September, then we will continue to focus, of course, on professional development, but then how do we assist teachers a little bit more? Now that everybody is pretty much accustomed to it, we're still learning, but just accustomed to it, then our chiefs will expand their roles in assisting teachers in various subject areas, based on their particular backgrounds, so that we can now move forward towards some content-specific strategies, some things that we would normally do if we were actually physically in the building. And so that's what we're working on. And so they do send their documentation to their immediate supervisors to ensure that we have some accountability on that as well.
Question. So is it possible to maybe have some of the chiefs make reports at our next board meeting, just to, give us an idea about what they experience, their observations for, just say, secondary, I guess you can say, or curriculum people, what they're doing, to support the students or support the teachers,
Sure.
or even the principals in that matter. Thank you.
Dr. Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
so do we still have parent liaisons?
No, we don't have parent liaisons. Parent liaisons were paid out of federal dollars last year. We don't have those this year. We had to pick up the 2 nursing positions with those funds, and those individuals are now our parent-student support assistants. They are part of the group that, even with the computer lab assistants, everybody's now a parent-student support assistant.
One last thing, we did work to develop 10 virtual learning tips for parents. This will be posted on our district's webpage and our Facebook page, but it just shares some things that, it shares 5 ways parents can support us and support their children while they're at home. Create a learning space, follow the virtual schedule, talk about the learning with your child. Ask for support from the child's school, assess and adapt. We recognize that this is a difficult time for all of our students, and we want to remain positive about their experience. Sometimes students get overwhelmed too, based on what's going on. Hey, I'm not used to this either, so how do we support them as well? So 5 ways to support our students. And then we have 3 steps towards progress. So there's allowing the teachers to lead instruction. Many times, our teachers are there to provide the instruction, and I'll use this as an example. If I'm as a kindergarten student, my parent may be there assisting me, but we want to encourage our parents to help us by allowing that teacher to provide the instruction. I know our parents, we love the fact that they want to help us join in, but we're asking that our parents kind of be the guide on the side and let our teachers provide that instruction so that our students are receiving what they should. And then also allowing the student to respond. Many times, even in the physical setting, we call it wait time. Sometimes a student may need to think about what it is before they respond to the teacher. So we want to give that student adequate wait time as they would have had in the classroom setting. So, and then finally, allowing the student to complete his or her own work. We want to uphold the integrity of what we're doing as well. We know that our students are working from home. We recognize that. But we want to continue to communicate. In order for us to catch them where they are, help them grow as we want them to, we have to know exactly, where they are. And we want all of us to be as honest, as straightforward as possible, and allow our students to complete their work. And then 2 things to remember. We are asking our parents to dress appropriately and to speak appropriately because there are other students on the virtual class meeting. And so we're asking that if our parents are there to assist their students in any way with our learning management system, that they help us by doing these things. So these 10 virtual learning tips for parents will be posted today.
And we did that initially in July when we met with parents. We talked about the appropriateness of the virtual setting, backgrounds, attire, and so on. And after listening to or hearing some of the concerns from the teachers who are teaching regarding some things that they're experiencing while they're teaching, Dr. Pulley created the flyer And Ms. Coleman actually created a video, and it explains to the parents those things that are appropriate and not appropriate, and she gave the why behind it. So Ms. Coleman, if you want to just share a little bit about what you discussed in your video.
Yes, ma'am. We do know that there were two sides to this story. One, the student side, and one for the parents. And what we were trying to do was support the child by addressing some of the issues that arise as a result of the parent that negatively impacted the child's ability to learn and to, be socially accepted in the virtual classroom. So we did a video, one for students and one for parents, and we just addressed some of those common themes that were happening across the district as it relates to language, dress, background, completing assignments and lessons, addressing how they may be feeling and how to deal with it. And before we released these videos, we also provided some support by way of social services to students, because it is stressful, and we did explain that we understand that it is stressful, but these are some ways that you can deal with it. And also we wanted to stress and reiterate that virtual school is real school, and we do the same things. We prepare in the morning. We have rituals and routines. We continue with our health and hygiene. We just address those issues that needed to be addressed for our children, and also to reiterate them from the parent. But we did a parent's perspective to it and a student's perspective.
Dr. Brown, the Canvas platform itself, do you know if they have people that will come out and do a training session for teachers and for students, or tips on how to better themselves with Canvas?
I'm sure they do have individuals who will come and do the training.
We
Go ahead.
We have reached out to various individuals who do have some knowledge in working with Canvas and providing some professional development there. And that's one thing that we will use some of the money, that additional funding for, is provide PD tours. That also professional development for our learning management system is a part of the Equity in Learning grant from MDE, so we have to do that. Also, we have reached out to individuals at Mississippi Valley State University regarding, just some tips and what they can do to support us. So yes, ma'am, that is going to be coming. Additional, along with our technology staff, that will be coming.
And Ms. Coleman talked about addressing the social emotional aspect of virtual learning for our kids. Can you talk about how we're utilizing the work that our social workers and counselors are doing to support our kids and our parents, as well as the teachers?
Yes, ma'am. Every day from 1 to 3:30, social workers are available for parents, students, and teachers to address some of the issues they may have. The need arises from a concern from a student who expressed to the parent that they were struggling. Intelligent student was just accustomed to that traditional face-to-face, and this is what he was dealing with. And so what we do is we make sure that they're available. They can do it via phone call or through Google Meet or through Canvas. It's the child's decision. The child also gets to decide if they speak to a male or a female counselor. And if need be, the counselors are available after the 3:30 time frame. And if need be, we also address that sometimes we may have to follow up and do a session with the parent after meeting with the students. We've done it at the JDC, we've done it for pre-K, and the majority of our caseload is middle and high, mostly, preteen, middle school age group.
So next we have a student enrollment, the instructional assistant assignments, presentation on COVID-19 cases in LaFleur County, and our district newspaper, So on page 24, you have our student enrollment, and those numbers are going up daily. This is what we have as of, I think, a few days ago. But after speaking to principals, some of the principals are and have been, for those individuals who may need that one-on-one assistance who aren't able to walk through it over the phone, the principals have allowed them to come up and they practice the social distancing and making sure that everybody's safe to assist any individuals who still need to register children. A lot of them did start the process, and I think once they see information has been submitted, they thought that that was the end of it. So the principals and the secretaries are calling to make sure that those students get registered. Next, you have the classified duties and responsibilities. These individuals are assigned to specific teachers, and in some cases have intervention assignments also. I do have an updated copy in my email from 2 schools, LaFleur Elementary and I think it's Threadgill Elementary, and I can give you that updated copy. But these are the assignments for our classified individuals when they're working in their virtual platform, as well as some of the assignments at the schools. Dr. Pulley talked about taking attendance. Some of the assistants are responsible for taking attendance while the teacher is providing the classroom instruction. And they're also in to help monitor with classroom management in the virtual setting, as well as working with those students one-on-one. It may be in a different link or just to provide some of that intervention. But at every school, all of your instructional assistants have an assignment, and that way we're able to monitor and track their performance, but to also provide the students with additional support as well as the teachers.
Dr. Brown, question.
Okay.
On page 30, and I know this is something that we briefly spoke about, number 2 at the bottom,
Right,
the name.
right.
So, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So he or she,
2, yes.
that is a student parent support assistant position. And that person supports that 4th grade group. But in the event, go ahead, Dr. Pulley, and then
That particular, there has been a recommendation for a certified teacher in that area.
So my question is, at our July the 7th board meeting, as a board, we approved that person as whatever the acronym is, OYL, and for whatever reason, I understand that person was not extended.
but that's pending MDE's granting of that license. But this particular individual, from my understanding, submitted her own application, and the district did not. And the application has to be signed by me in order for it to, right. So, and the principal has to make a recommendation to a teaching position, to provide that person with a teaching position at his or her school. And as of yet, we haven't received a recommendation from the principal. I'm sure that if the principal or any principal has an opening, or if there are openings, we'd definitely be looking at those individuals who we submitted those applications on their behalf. But what I will, and I'm saying out loud so we can remember it, reach out to that individual and ask him or her to go back to personnel and allow us to submit the application for him or her.
So so again, I understand that the principals make the recommendation. So if that was the case, how or why did the name appear on our June 7th agenda under personnel for approval?
So if anyone has is applying for an emergency license, those individuals who are interested in receiving one, we still have to submit the application. We can get them approved so that we can submit those applications. So once approved, then the district will submit their application. The only part of this process, this individual did not allow the district to submit an application on their behalf. So the process for that individual is delayed because we have a process that actually MDE has that process. We have to submit it through the district so that when that person gets the license, if there's a position available, we'll offer that person. So the only thing that the person did was to not go through the steps that we have and submit the application him or herself.
So between July the 7th and August the 26th, the district just didn't submit an application, despite the board approving that person as an OIL.
Again, that individual, from my understanding, Dr. Miller gives the direction and directives. Now, if the individual takes it upon themselves and does something different, then we get to where we are today. Now that there's no license, that the issue has come up, but Dr. Miller, I know, is always working with and speaking with anybody who's reaching out to him or calling. But again, the delay is on that individual's end because they took the information and submitted it themselves versus going through our process. And so what I would encourage the individual to do is to reach out again to Human Resources, or they can call me and I'll explain the process because I've done it before also. But Dr. Miller has done this for multiple individuals, but that individual will have to come back through us to go through the process the correct way.
Thank you.
Dr. Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
is there any kind of way, and if it's too much of a problem, then don't worry about it, but like that they might can combine the way Davis Elementary and Greenwood High did theirs, like combining them and maybe not use the color scheme that Greenwood High used at the top, so that we could just get a working knowledge of what it is they do, you know, like combine the two. Because I like how Davis gave the duties and responsibilities, but yet Greenwood High is like more in depth to me, because it tells me like what area, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, and I think what the principals did, they just submitted, I just asked for their names and their responsibility, but we can do that. Next, we have the COVID-19. There was a PowerPoint presentation. There's also a video on our district's webpage providing the parents and community with COVID-19 information specific to LaFleur County. And one, to keep the community informed of the cases in this county and why, how certain decisions are made. And they're basically, what we're trying to show is that the facts are that the cases are still rising in LaFleur County. And so if you look on page 43, I went back to June 21st, and on June 21st, and all of this information can be found on the Mississippi State Department of Health's web page. June 21st, LaFleur County had 420 COVID cases. And by the end of June, the number had gone up to 472. And these were cases that were reported in LaFleur County. On the next page, page 44, we started with July 1st with 474 cases. And by mid-July, July 18, we were up to 632 cases. Page 45, on July 19th, we were up to 648 cases, and at the end of July, we were at 827 cases, and this is for LaFleur County only, and these are reported cases. Page 48, August 1st, we were up to 832 cases, and by August 13th, we were up to 971 cases in LaFleur County. August 14th, we were at 976, and the numbers continued to rise, the ones that were reported. By August 23rd, we were up to 1,206 cases in LaFleur County. So on page 48, I just gave you an end of the month total of cases in LaFleur County, and from June, we went from 472 to 827 in July, and to over 1,000 in August. On 49, it shows you the number of cases that increased from month to month. So between June and July, there were 355 increased cases in LaFleur County. And from July to August, there were 379 cases in LaFleur County. So if you go to the Mississippi Department of Health, you'll see a case by age group report, and what I couldn't find was the age group 18 and below, so I called the health department in Greenwood, and Ms. McGuinn sent me this slide through August 23rd. And so to kind of give a visual for parents and community of what students or age ranges or grade ranges these age groups encompass or entail. Less than 1 year old, and this is for Mississippi, there were 606 reported cases. This included newborns and infants in Mississippi. Ages 1 through 5, that grade or range group is toddlers, but for us it would be some of our pre-K students, and that was 1,433. Ages 6 through 10, that would be our kindergarten through 5th grade students, and that was 1,696 reported cases. And then we get to ages 11 through 17, those are our 6th grade through high school students. For us, it would be 6th grade through high school students, 4,474 cases. And so what I wanted to do was to be able to show parents, because as a parent, I'm looking for my child's age range. And this is in Mississippi, case by age group. So what I asked Ms. McGuinn, I think I'm pronouncing her last name, I asked her, was it a good thing? Well, how does she feel about, our schools not being open? And she said it does help. It does help because we have almost 5,000 kids, and now this is not her on this end, I'm saying now. We do have almost 5,000 kids, and to open those school doors and have those kids come in would be inviting more increased cases. But now her statement was it does help. And when we're talking about lessening the exposure. So the next page was 52, and this is just part 2. This is the part of the video that I hadn't, I've recorded, but I haven't sent it to Ms. Dean yet. But what I was working to show parents is some of the things that have been published in the Clarion Ledger regarding the COVID cases. And so on page 52, I pulled in the article from August 10th, where Dr. Thomas Dobbs talked about there were 22 schools that had reported, and this was August 10th, reported COVID-19 cases, and the major outbreaks were a concern. And I just pulled statements from him because he's the chief health officer for the state. And he said that as students return to school, there most likely will be a significant increase in the number of cases for COVID. And he said, but that is already starting to happen as more districts resume classes. And that last statement he made, he said, we know some percentage of kids are going to walk through that door and they already have the virus. And so what I'm sharing with the parents and the communities, just giving them more information regarding just how deadly, to be honest with you, that this virus is. I pulled another article from August 17th. As Mississippi schools positive COVID-19 cases surge, more testing coming for teachers, and this was published in the Clarion Ledger. And again, this is from Dr. Dobbs. He said that on that on Monday that 71 out of 82 counties have reported positive coronavirus cases in schools. And then I jumped down to the other highlighted sections. He said those positives have led to 589 teachers and over 2,000 students being placed in quarantine. Many schools have yet to reopen in person, but Dobbs said that most students that have tested positive caught the virus outside of the campus and brought it with them. And so for me, my concern is opening doors to the schools, and you may have students who don't know that they do have the virus, and they bring that virus into the buildings, and other students contract it and take it home to individuals who have no contact with the schools. And the most recent article I pulled was an article on August 21st, and this was Dr. Dobbs stating that we will see another spike of COVID-19 cases in 3 to 4 weeks. And he said that it will be a real problem. It's hard not to imagine the state having a real problem in a few weeks, and so on. And what is, of all of the parts of the statements in the article on page 55 of that same article, Dr. Dobbs also said that young people are going to die from this virus. And for me, that is something that we want to work to prevent as much as we can, because we are the decision makers. Everybody in this room, we're the decision makers for this district. And although it may not be something parents or the community wants to hear, it is the safest thing to do for students and this community, because right now, LaFleur County's cases are continuing to increase. And as a district, we don't want to be a part of the reason those numbers spike, because we are rushing to open schools. We are working. And I'm, for the most part, I do believe in my heart that parents do understand why we have to go virtual. Yes, it's different. Yes, it's complicated in the beginning, but at the end of the day, our kids are safe if they're at home. They're safe, and they're not, we're not putting people at a greater risk by opening these school doors and bringing children in. At some point, I do believe, again, and that's just me speaking with my heart, that coronavirus one day will leave and we'll be able to open the doors again. But right now, personally for me, it is not safe to bring all of these children back in. Yes, it is not something everybody wants to hear, but again, that's why we're here. We're supposed to do the very best that we know or that we believe, doing what is best for the kids and the community. And so I shared that on our Facebook page in a video, but to just let people see what the real numbers are, because when you look at the numbers are increasing on a daily basis.
Dr. Ryan, question. Just from your interaction with teachers or principals and your administrative team interactions, can you give us a gauge of how the teachers feel about possibly reopening schools or sticking to virtual learning?
So when we spoke to teachers, now my interaction with teachers was during the virtual meeting, explaining, but they do understand the severity of what will happen if they come into the schools. And even prior to that, we had a few teachers who were they were not going to be able to come to work because they did have some underlying issues. You have others who are afraid. I have one principal in particular who stated she is afraid. And so she's happy that she's able to, one, still get into the classroom, still provide that support, but at the same she feels safer because she doesn't have to quote unquote worry about so many people in the building at once and something happening. Now I can't speak for my team, but as for me, I would say personally I'm afraid every day when I come to work, that I'm going to take something home to my family. You know, I'm afraid every time we have a meeting, whether it's a board meeting or a work session, that, because we don't know, we really don't know how these viruses spread, but, you know, I'm afraid in given things that are happening on a day-to-day basis, we don't know when it will be us that will contract it or whether we will survive after. And so, I can let my team speak for themselves and some of the input that you may hear from teachers or principals or assistant principals and anyone else, but as the superintendent, I can tell you, I may not show it, but this virus has me afraid.
All right. And Dr. Brown, with that being said, excuse me, with that being said, the board would like to thank you for your diligence on the, keeping us with the data and the current updates, because I can truly say on a daily or weekly basis that you're always giving us updates. I feel like I know Dr. Dobbs at the CDC. And I thank you for keeping our boys and girls safe. And I was just wondering, is there anything else that we could do as far as building level and the central office to keep them a little bit safer? I know you just put all your energy on the children, but by the same token, the central office staff and the building level staff, there are people there.
Right.
And I just want to make sure, because as you said, on my watch, I would just want to make sure that everybody's safe.
Right. So what we have done at the central office level, and that was one of the reasons for sharing the assignments for the assistants. The assistants are in those virtual classrooms. But for our central office staff, they do have the alternating times where a specific group may come in the AM and another group may come in the PM. The executive leadership team, we do have a schedule. We're trying to get on that schedule. We're trying our best to get on that schedule so that we won't be out so much. I think this week we have tried to begin it, but we're going to work more for ourselves to try to stay out of, I don't want to say the air or however it's transmitted, but to try to keep ourselves a little bit more safe also.
But you say that every time, but like every time I come up here to sign a paper or something, there's so many of y'all up here, I'm trying to run to get out of here.
And we're going to try to get out of here. We definitely will try to get out.
And one of the things that we will be getting in tomorrow is our air purifier machines. So those, once we finish getting those tags, we'll have those out to the school as well as one here in this building to start.
So you saying like one per school?
No, it's multiple per school. I want to say it's at least 5 per school if I'm not mistaken. I know they will be centered in the hallway for the doors to be open. I think we may have a couple that'll be actually up here.
So is it like it covers so many square feet or
Yeah,
something?
it covers so many square feet. So once we have those, we'll have those installed. We are doing the temperature check machines to be placed at each school, so no one has to physically come and take temperatures. So as the thing, we have ordered a lot of things and they have been on back order, but as they come in, we'll start to get those things in place for our staff that's at school now.
Okay. So next we have Ms. Dean has really been working. I mean, she has been working so hard on our district newspaper. She has, it has been published, but I want to, you have a copy in your packet, but we do have the actual published copies. But Ms. Dean, would you like to share? She has really been working hard on this.
Just that we know that we really don't have, per se, a large number of students in class, so I'm trying to find a way to get the information out. I've taken the newspapers to every school. Those parents who come to pick up meals, they will receive one. We also have papers on the in the office of each school for people who come. The transportation department that delivers our meal services, they will be delivering those to the county. I'm also going to place them in businesses downtown who allow us to do so. So I think by the time we finish doing all that, we should have all of our copies. And I would like to say that my name may be on there, on the back somewhere, but I could not have done any of this without the help of the principals and the central office staff who contributed some of the stories and the pictures in the paper. And hopefully, we will be doing this on a regular basis. We were shut down by the pandemic after the first issue went out in March. But hopefully we can do this because, as you know, we need to keep the public updated. Not everybody reads Facebook. Not everybody looks at our website or other media outlets. So we're hoping that this is one way that we can keep our parents, students, and community stakeholders informed.
Question, Dr. Brown. So, Ms. Dean, on page 71,
Okay.
in the last picture at the bottom, I believe that's Mr. Johnson over at Threadgill. Is it possible that you can black that stuff out that's on their face mask? We don't want to advertise such things.
Oh, I did not see that.
Oh, I'm
I
just kidding
apologize.
with you. Don't pay me any
Oh,
mind.
okay, because I can't see it on this little, what is it, a logo?
Yeah, it's a logo, we don't necessarily approve of,
Oh, okay.
but don't pay me any mind. But good job, Ms. Dean, and thank you for your
Thank you, thank you. And I would like to say that the photos that appear in here, whether it's students, on there, I have not received, and I always ask that when students register, if there is someone who does not want to appear on our social media, that they take those names, let the principal know, and we know not to take those students' pictures. And I think probably in all the years that I've worked in the school district and we have been doing yearbooks or whatever, there may have been two parents who didn't want their students on social media, so we haven't had any issues with that.
Great job, Ms. Dean.
Thank you.
Next, we have the regular board agenda. The first thing on the agenda, well, we have the call to order, approval of the agenda, superintendent's report. The regular agenda, we have 16 section land report, and you have that in your packets. We also have an approval of a plan of mastery of content for Carnegie unit courses. Dr. Pulley.
This is the plan that must be submitted to the Mississippi Department of Education. Back in June, the MDE requested a suspension of this particular rule. The rule set in place, and it's been this way for a while. For one Carnegie unit or one credit, students must be in that particular class for 140 hours. For a half credit course, it's 70 hours. And so MDE requested a one-year suspension of that rule, and because of that, they asked us to come up with our plan. How will our students, what will our students do, and how will they receive their Carnegie units? And so this particular plan was in collaboration with all three high schools, principals and counselors. We worked to develop this, and this is just stating that this is how our students will receive those Carnegie units. And we wanted to be as detailed as possible so that if there are any questions, then we would definitely be able to answer those. Also, what will be attached to this will be the sample high school virtual schedules that we shared with you all at a previous meeting.
And how many students, how many hours in the 12th grade do they have to graduate?
Well, just total, they have to have 24 Carnegie units.
24?
Yes, ma'am.
And what's the most that they could have?
Oh, well, it's not a limit on that.
It's really not limited?
No, ma'am. Mm.
Next is 4.3. That one was going to be removed. That was an approval, that was a timesheet, but we have that resolved. So that is going to be removed. 4.4 is approval of maintenance and transportation salary scales. Mr. Johnson.
You can see on pages 83 and 84, the transportation salary scale as well as the maintenance salary scale. And they hadn't changed since last year. These are the same.
You said they hadn't changed.
No, it was the same ones that were approved last year.
If I might ask, what's the purpose of us having it?
Ma'am.
What's the purpose of us having it? I thought
It's
maybe-
just to get the transportation salary scale approved.
Okay.
And I will say, and Mr. Johnson can elaborate on it, Mr. Johnson, the business office, Ms. Hudson, business office, Mrs. Washington, Mrs. Pulley, met with some of the transportation staff, met with the transportation staff, and they just kind of for the beginning of the year, explain and entertain any questions that they had. And one thing we communicated to the transportation staff, we want to make ourselves available, but that was Mr. Johnson's leading, he and Ms. Hudson, to make themselves available so that if transportation staff had questions, that was the time to ask the questions and have the people in the room that they, so that they were able to explain to them any of the concerns or comments that they made. And so I'm just saying that because I'm using Dr. Bader's words, kudos to Mr. Johnson and his team.
Mr. Johnson, I have a question. Is there any consideration for those drivers who drive those rural routes who may have to stay out there longer than others? Or is everything just a base across the board?
It's based across the board, the hourly rate, but they would get more hours. But where most of your local routes, maybe 30 minutes or tops or an hour at most. When we talk about local rural routes, usually run 2 to 3 hours, and it's morning, then maybe two hours in the afternoon, so they see more hours.
So they will get paid for all of their time?
Yeah, all of their time that they're driving, if they are not a district employee where those times conflict. And I just want to be clear on saying that, because if, say, a driver starts driving at 5 and they route ends at 7:30, and they actually start the clock at 7:30, they only gonna get paid from that 5 to 7:30 time to that when they actually supposed to be working in the district, if it's an employee like that. Other than that, they would get the time that they're working.
Oh.
And we did meet with the drivers, since Dr. Brown did mention that, we did meet with our drivers and explain the situation that we're in now versus how we were in March when we was on an executive order where they was able to get paid while not driving. We're not under those circumstances, so they can only be paid for the time that they're actually driving. And so we have reached out and worked with some of those drivers that may not be regular employees, but may have just been driving to try to find additional duties and things for them to do that wouldn't necessarily make up for all the hours that they would work driving the bus, but it would just help to supplement for some of that time.
Next, we have approval of reverse auction bids. Mr. Johnson.
And what you have here is the AC servicing unit bid. We only had one bidder, which was Upchurch Services, for the per hour rate that would be required for any repairing of services. And what I attached was the bid sheets for this year, as well as the bid sheets for last year. You can see we actually had 3 bidders on last year. We only had 1 bidder this year. You can see the difference in the hourly rate that was bid. And just, it's always at the board discretion. You can always reject bids if it's nothing that you don't want to approve.
Dr. Brown, if I may, can I ask you for your professional opinion on this, Mr. Johnson? Since the numbers are so different, I guess you can say.
Well, of course, I did reach out just to kind of see what everything has gone up as far as some of the stuff that as they require with working. And I said I would reach back out to them if there was something else to see if that was, you know, if that price maybe was a bit much. But it is, I think, about
think before-
$11 difference. from
Right.
the-
So do you think before September 1st, you'll be able to talk to them?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Next, we have approval of independent evaluations. Ms. Coleman.
The district employs 2 full-time psychometrists that have continued services and evaluation of students and communication with parents. Parents who disagree with results reserve the right to request an independent educational evaluation at the district's expense. What we will be requesting is school board approval of an independent evaluator.
And we also have approval of student transfer from an employee within the district. Next, we have our claims docket and financial information, Mrs. Washington.
Y'all had an opportunity to review, y'all had any questions?
Yeah, I have 2 questions, well, 1 question with 2, I'm trying to find it. And it was the 2 with the diplomas, and I was trying to figure out what diploma.
Somehow the company sent an invoice, and, it was a late diploma they had to ask for, request. And so when they sent it, somehow they got it mixed up and they sent another one. And they had a different date on it. So we got that cleared up so we could pay it, but it was the diploma from last school time.
Was it a particular school is what I'm saying? So those 2 invoices was for the same claim, you saying?
Hold on, let me find it.
I see one under 946, 589. And then let me find the other one. I saw 2 of them.
I think, and I'm saying this without looking, we had a diploma that we had to reorder due to a misspelling of a name. And I think that may be what that is. And I'm saying that without, looking at it, but I think that's what.
It was 2 different claims, that's why I asked.
Hold on, let me see if this other one. Shoot, one of them, you got 2 different sets of claim dockets. One is detailed, one is condensed. One will tell you what school that it actually came from.
Yeah, I didn't see that
Here it
either.
is, it's on page 101. 946, 589, is that?
You said page 101.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it don't say what school.
Can we have it ready for the meeting? This ain't,
I definitely can have
not
that.
the meeting.
Yes,
Can she, report it to us at the meeting?
yes.
Yeah, it's 2
I
of
will
them.
pull it.
It's 2 of them, thank you very much.
Okay, I'll pull both.
Because I thought this what work session was for us to ask questions. Thank you, Ms. Washington, if you can give me the name of the schools.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. I don't have any further questions, Dr. Brown.
Next, we have approval of personnel recommendations. And I can go down, I think that's page 114, kind of give you the reason, just starting with the first and then go down.
Yes, ma'am.
1, medical. 1, 2, and 3 are medicals. 4, I'm just say graduated. This is a one that was back in July but graduated, and degree was not in this area but got a job in that particular field. The next is a relocation. I still have to find out what's this next one. 1, 2. The next 2 are medical reasons. That next one, the second from the last, is relocation, and then I'll find out what the last one was.
Dr. Brown, quick question. Back on page 29, and this is dealing with the classified employees.
Okay.
The 5th one to the bottom, is that the same person that resigned?
1, 2, 3.
Well, count from the top, I'm sorry.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, this is, I don't think that's the same
Okay,
person.
okay.
The other person was certified.
Okay.
Is that it?
That's it, Ms. Wood.
So the purpose of work session is for us to ask questions, so we won't interrupt the regular board meeting, correct?
Yes, and for us to go back and get any material that you all need by board meeting, so that we can have more specifics for board meeting if you have any questions.
Well, if there's nothing else, thank you, Dr. Brown, and consider yourselves dismissed, and each board member can see Dr. Brown after this.
That's fine.